What if you broke the law today without doing anything wrong? Last night, California quietly changed the rules, and millions of people have no idea it happened. These aren't small technical updates. They affect your job, your rent, your driving, your money, and even your rights. One mistake, one missed detail, and you could face fines, lost income, or serious legal trouble. Most people won't find out until it's too late. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm breaking down 10 overnight California law changes you must know, and number 7 is already catching people off guard. Number 1. Worker pay and wage rules just changed overnight. California quietly updated worker pay protections, and the impact is immediate for millions of employees. The change tightens how hourly wages, overtime eligibility, and pay transparency are enforced across industries. Employers are now required to track and compensate work time with far greater precision, including small increments that were previously ignored. Practices like rounding hours, delaying corrections, or mislabeling time can now trigger automatic violations. Many workers assume payroll mistakes are normal, but under this update, even minor errors may legally qualify as wage theft. This shift strongly affects retail workers, healthcare staff, restaurant employees, and anyone paid hourly. If your paycheck looks inconsistent, unclear, or late, that issue is no longer just inconvenient, it may now be unlawful. What makes this change risky is how invisible it is. There's no announcement, no signature required, and no grace period. The law is already active, and enforcement agencies can act faster than before. Time spent answering messages after hours, logging in early, or staying late without formal approval is now more clearly protected. Employers are now required to pay for that time or face penalties. Many companies are still updating payroll systems, and during that transition, mistakes increase. Workers who don't regularly review their pay stubs may quietly lose hundreds or even thousands of dollars over time without realizing it. Protecting yourself now requires active awareness. Review each paycheck carefully and look for missing overtime, unpaid minutes, incorrect rates, or unexplained deductions. Save screenshots of schedules, clock-ins, and work-related messages as personal records. If something feels wrong, document it immediately and follow up in writing. This law strengthens worker rights, but it only helps those who pay attention. In today's workplace, knowledge is protection, and ignoring your pay details is no longer safe. Number 2. Gig workers and independent contractor rules were quietly redefined. California has once again adjusted how gig workers and independent contractors are classified, and the update carries real consequences. The law now places stricter limits on when companies can label workers as contractors instead of employees. This matters because classification determines access to minimum wage, overtime, expense reimbursement, and workplace protections. Many app-based workers assume flexibility means fewer rights, but under the updated rules, more people may legally qualify as employees, even if they set their own schedules. Driving, delivery, freelance, and on-demand workers are the most affected. If a company controls how you perform tasks, sets pricing, or penalizes refusal of work, that relationship is now under heavier scrutiny. The danger is that nothing looks different on the surface. Your app still works the same, your contract may look unchanged, and payments still arrive. But legally, the ground is shifted. Companies that fail to reclassify eligible workers could face penalties, and workers may be owed back pay or benefits without realizing it. Many people continue accepting contractor status without knowing they may now have stronger legal standing. This gap between perception and reality leaves workers vulnerable to lost income, unpaid expenses, and denied protections while companies quietly adjust behind the scenes. If you earn income through gigs, start protecting yourself immediately. Track hours worked, save contracts, and document how tasks are assigned or controlled. Pay attention to rule changes inside apps and sudden policy updates. If your work feels structured like a job, it may now legally be treated as one. This law doesn't remove flexibility, but it does demand fairness, and knowing where you stand can change everything. Number 3. Housing and rent rules shifted, changing what landlords and renters can do. California updated key housing and rent regulations, and the changes apply immediately to both renters and property owners. The law tightens how rent increases, eviction notices, and tenant protections are handled, especially in high-demand areas. Landlords now face stricter rules on how and when rent can be raised, and certain justifications that were previously allowed are now limited. For renters, this means stronger protection against sudden displacement and unexpected cost spikes. Many people assume their lease is the final word, but state law can override lease language when tenant rights are involved. The biggest risk comes from misunderstanding notices. Some eviction or rent increase notices that look official may no longer meet legal standards under the new rules. Deadlines, wording, and delivery methods matter more than ever. Renters who panic and move out too quickly may give up rights they legally have, while landlords who reuse old templates could unintentionally break the law. This change is already creating confusion, especially for people who receive notices and assume compliance is mandatory. In reality, some notices are now legally defective, even if they appear valid. If you rent, slow down and verify everything before responding. Keep copies of leases, notices, and communication with landlords. If you own property, update all documents immediately and confirm they align with current requirements. Housing law in California changes fast, and acting on outdated information can be costly. Awareness now protects stability, money, and peace of mind for both sides of the rental relationship. Number 4. Minimum wage and salary thresholds quietly increased. California adjusted minimum wage standards and salary thresholds, and the change affects more workers than most people realize. This update doesn't just impact hourly employees, it directly changes who qualifies for overtime pay. If you're salaried but earn below the new threshold, you may now be legally entitled to overtime, even if your job title hasn't changed. Many companies classify workers as exempt to avoid overtime, but that classification only applies if strict income rules are met. With the threshold raised, thousands of workers may now be misclassified without knowing it. Job titles sound official, but under California law, pay level matters more than labels. The problem is that employers are not required to announce this change clearly. Paychecks may look the same, schedules may stay the same, and expectations may not shift at all. That's where workers lose money. Someone working 50 or 60 hours a week on a salary that no longer meets the exemption standard could be owed significant unpaid overtime. This especially affects office staff, managers, administrative roles, and small business employees who are expected to work beyond standard hours. Many people assume salary equals stability, but under the updated rules, salary without proper compensation can mean lost income. Protecting yourself starts with knowing your numbers. Compare your salary to the current exempt minimum and track how many hours you actually work. Keep personal records of schedules, late nights, and weekend tasks. If your workload exceeds standard hours and your pay falls below the legal threshold, your employer may now be required to pay overtime. This change gives workers leverage, but only if they recognize it. Understanding your classification is no longer optional. It's financial self-defense. Number 5. Criminal justice rules changed, affecting charges, penalties, and records. California introduced quiet but meaningful updates to criminal justice laws, and these changes affect how certain offenses are charged, punished, and recorded. Some nonviolent crimes have updated penalty structures, while others now qualify for reduced charges or alternative sentencing. This doesn't mean crimes are ignored. It means the state is adjusting how accountability works. For everyday people, this matters because actions that once led to harsher outcomes may now be treated differently under the law. At the same time, certain repeat offenses face stricter enforcement, making patterns of behavior more important than ever. The biggest misunderstanding is assuming the law works the same way it always has. It doesn't. Police discretion, prosecutor decisions, and court outcomes are now guided by updated standards. Someone with a prior record could face different consequences than before, while first-time offenders may be eligible for diversion programs instead of permanent records. The danger is not knowing where you fall. People often make decisions during stops, questioning, or plea offers without realizing the legal framework has shifted. That lack of awareness can turn a manageable situation into a long-term problem. Protecting yourself starts with knowledge and caution. Never assume a minor charge is harmless or that a past rule still applies. If you or someone you know encounters the legal system, ask questions and seek clarity before agreeing to anything. These changes are designed to reshape outcomes, but only for those who understand. In California, the justice system is evolving, and staying informed can make the difference between a temporary mistake and a permanent consequence.
Number 6. Driving and traffic laws shifted, putting everyday habits at risk. California quietly updated several driving and traffic regulations, and the changes are already being enforced. These updates affect how certain violations are categorized, how fines are issued, and when points are added to your record. Behaviors many drivers consider normal, like briefly using a phone at a stoplight, rolling through turns, or misusing special lanes, are now treated more seriously under revised standards. The goal is safety, but the impact is financial and legal. A single mistake can now trigger higher fines, insurance increases, or even license consequences, especially for repeat issues. What makes this dangerous is how routine these habits feel. Most drivers aren't reckless, they're rushed, distracted, or relying on old assumptions. But enforcement guidelines have tightened, and officers have clearer authority to cite behaviors that were previously overlooked or warned. Automated systems, cameras, and reporting tools also play a bigger role now. That means fewer second chances and more permanent records. Drivers who commute daily, use delivery apps, or spend long hours on the road face the highest risk, often without realizing how exposed they are. To protect yourself, reset your driving habits immediately. Keep phones completely out of reach, double-check lane rules, and slow down in areas you think you know well. Review your driving record and understand how close you are to thresholds that trigger penalties. These changes don't just punish dangerous driving, they penalize inattention. In California, staying safe behind the wheel now means staying up to date, because relying on memory can cost you far more than time.
Number 7. Gun ownership and safety rules became stricter overnight. California made immediate updates to gun ownership and firearms safety regulations, and the changes affect more people than just new buyers. The law tightens requirements around storage, transport, and eligibility, with stronger penalties for non-compliance. Even long-time law-abiding gun owners can now face violations if their storage methods or documentation don't meet updated standards. What was acceptable before may no longer qualify today. The focus is on preventing unauthorized access and reducing risk, but the consequences for mistakes are now far more serious. The biggest risk comes from assumptions. Many owners believe that once a firearm is legally purchased, the rules stay the same. That's no longer true. Storage expectations inside homes, vehicles, and shared spaces are under greater scrutiny, especially when minors are present. Failure to secure firearms properly can now trigger criminal liability even if no incident occurs. Transportation rules have also become less forgiving, meaning how and where firearms are carried matters more than ever. These updates are already being enforced, not phased in. Protection starts with reviewing your responsibilities immediately. Confirm that storage devices meet current standards and that access is restricted at all times. Revisit transportation rules before traveling, even for short distances. Keep records organized and accessible. These changes are not about ownership alone, they're about constant compliance. In California, responsible gun ownership now requires ongoing attention, because outdated practices can quickly turn into serious legal trouble.
Number 8. Healthcare, insurance, and medical billing rules quietly changed. California updated key healthcare and insurance protections, and the effects are already reaching patients.
The changes focus on how coverage decisions, billing practices, and patient rights are handled, especially when it comes to surprise charges and delayed approvals. Insurance providers now face tighter timelines and clearer obligations when responding to claims or authorizations. That means denials, delays, or vague explanations that were once common are now more restricted. For patients, this increases protection, but only if they understand what they're entitled to under the new rules. The problem is that most people don't question medical bills. They assume high costs, confusing codes, or partial denials are normal. Under the updated law, some of those charges may now be improper or challengeable. Emergency care, out-of-network billing, and follow-up services are areas where errors are most common. Patients who pay without reviewing statements may lose money they never owed. The system still feels overwhelming, and insurers often rely on that confusion to move fast while patients hesitate. To protect yourself, review every explanation of benefits carefully, compare bills to services received, and question anything unclear. Keep records of appointments, referrals, and approvals. If a claim is denied, request a written explanation and track response deadlines. These changes strengthen patient rights, but only for those who engage. In California's healthcare system, attention equals protection, and staying silent can be expensive. Number 9. School, parenting, and child protection rules were quietly updated. California made subtle but important changes to school policies, parental rights, and child protection regulations, and these updates directly affect families. The law clarifies how schools handle student records, discipline procedures, and mandatory reporting, while also adjusting how agencies respond to concerns involving children. Parents often assume school rules are set by districts alone, but state law overrides many local policies. These changes influence how information is shared, how decisions are made, and how quickly authorities can step in when issues arise. The biggest risk comes from miscommunication and assumptions. Parents may believe they must comply immediately with school requests or agency instructions without understanding their rights. At the same time, schools and institutions must now follow stricter guidelines when involving outside authorities or documenting concerns. Small misunderstandings can escalate quickly, especially when paperwork, deadlines, or verbal agreements are involved. Families who aren't aware of these updates may feel blindsided by actions they didn't expect or fully understand. Protection starts with staying informed and asking questions. Request written explanations for decisions, keep copies of all school communications, and understand when consent is required. If something feels unclear or rushed, slow the process down. These changes are designed to protect children, but they also reshape how parents interact with schools and agencies. In California, being an involved parent now means being an informed parent, because awareness shapes outcomes more than ever.
Number 10. Consumer protection and subscription laws shifted in your favor. California quietly strengthened consumer protection laws, and these changes directly affect how companies charge you, bill you, and keep you subscribed. The update targets automatic renewals, hidden fees, and cancellation barriers that trap people into paying longer than intended. Businesses must now be clearer about pricing, easier to cancel, and more transparent about ongoing charges. If you've ever struggled to find a cancel button or noticed fees you don't remember agreeing to, this law is meant to stop that behavior. The danger is that many companies still rely on consumer inattention. They may update terms quietly while assuming customers won't notice their rights have expanded. People continue paying for services they no longer use because they believe cancellation is complicated or impossible. Under the new rules, that excuse no longer works. Some charges that used to be standard practice may now be illegal if disclosure or consent wasn't clear. Consumers who don't review statements regularly may miss opportunities to dispute or recover money. To protect yourself, review bank and credit card statements with intention. Look for subscriptions you don't recognize, price increases you weren't notified about, or services that refuse easy cancellation.
Save confirmation emails and take screenshots during signups and cancellations. These changes give consumers real leverage, but only if they use it. In California, spending wisely now includes knowing when the law is on your side. What makes these California law changes so powerful isn't just what they say on paper, it's how silently they took effect and how deeply they reach into everyday life. From how you're paid to where you live, how you drive, what you're charged, and even how your family interacts with schools or healthcare systems, these updates are already shaping outcomes in real time. Most people won't hear about them from employers, landlords, or companies. They'll only feel the consequences later, when a paycheck is short, a fee appears, or a notice arrives that doesn't make sense. The biggest risk right now is unawareness. California law moves fast, and relying on outdated assumptions can cost money, rights, and peace of mind. These changes aren't meant to scare people, they're meant to rebalance power. But laws only protect those who know they exist. Paying attention, asking questions, and documenting your daily interactions now matters more than ever. Small habits like reviewing pay stubs, reading notices carefully, and questioning unclear charges can make a massive difference over time. Staying informed isn't about becoming a legal expert, it's about being prepared, alert, and proactive in a system that changes quietly. If even one of these updates helps you avoid a fine, recover money, or protect your rights, then awareness has already done its job. Knowledge doesn't just inform, it protects. Now we want to hear from you. Which law surprised you the most, or which one affects your life right now? Drop it in the comments. Watch our previous video for more updates you won't hear anywhere else. We put hours of research and effort into every video. Your support truly matters. Please subscribe to the channel. It's just one click, and it helps us keep going.